Well, welcome everyone. Thanks for joining us for today's luncheon. I'm Jonathan Jenk with the Chamber of Commerce here, and I'm grateful to have another professional development luncheon where we're able to talk about a really important topic. And specifically in regards to the topic of domestic violence, it's a challenging topic, but it's a really important one when we think about how we engage with it from a business community member standpoint, how we support our resource providers who are caring for the most vulnerable that are affected by domestic violence. We're really pleased to have two experts in that field today. And so want to welcome Cait Ozaki from Hope Crisis Center, and then along with Chief Brian Peters, who's our Chief of Police here for the City of Seward, will be our two presenters on the topic today. Before we jump to them, I want to thank our sponsors for today's luncheon, and you should have that at your table. So we can't do luncheons like this without their support, so I want to specifically thank them. And our sponsors are Cattle Bank and Trust, Jones Bank, Memorial Healthcare Systems, Pet Source by Schooler, Concordia University, Hughes Brothers, Sewer and Lichty Insurance, Rimbold Lichty Law Firm, Norris Public Power District, Sam's Club, Airs and Airs Construction, Hack and Save, Seward County Independent, Terracon Consultants, Bear Crop Science, Acres, Data Vision, and Bryant Urgent Care. If we can give those sponsors a round of applause. The brief intro: domestic violence is a reality that affects individuals across all walks of life, regardless of age, gender, race, or socioeconomic background. Today's event is an opportunity not only to deepen our understanding, but to explore ways we can respond with compassion and meaningful action in our personal and professional lives. With that, I think Cait is going to get us started, and I think we have some important swag on tables and at the back, a registration table as well, so we'd welcome you to amplify this topic to those that you interact with. With that, Cait, welcome.
Thank you.
Yes.
So like you said, I am Cait Park now. I got married. I just never really changed my last name. So I've been with Hope Crisis Center for 4 years in December. So I was the newest B person on the team as of last week. However, we hired a new person for our York office. I work here in Seward at the Seward office. It is in the old courthouse on the square. We're under Victim Services. So as you come in, we are to the left. I also work with Shannon Caranda in our Seward office. So if you know her or the Carandas at all, she works with me. And we have this lovely presentation.
Yep, we'll get it.
I will say, as like a little disclaimer, we are talking about domestic violence and sexual violence. So if you need a break, please take one. There's restrooms around the corner. If you need to step out, feel free to do so. So, intimate partner violence. The goals for today are to kind of recognize the dynamics of intimate partner violence, be able to respond to if someone discloses to you, and know how to refer to your local services. The prevalence of abuse. So nationally, as of the National Intimate Partner and Sexual Violence Survey of 2016 and 2017, they found that nearly 1 in 2 women and 2 in 5 men have experienced rape, physical violence, and or stalking by an intimate partner. In the same survey, they found that 1 in 5 women and 1 in 3 men have experienced sexual violence. A little bit closer to home, in Nebraska, approximately 1.4 million Nebraskans have experienced intimate partner or sexual violence in their lifetime. That comes to about 850,000 Nebraskans. Nearly 165 Nebraskan women have been strangled by an intimate partner in their lifetime. And 1 in 10 women Nebraskan women have had either a knife or a gun pulled on them in the relationship. This little graph comes from the recent report on annual deaths due to domestic violence. So between July 21st, 2022 and July 1st of 2025, there has been a recorded 72 deaths related to intimate partner violence. 15 of those have occurred in the first half of 2025, and there has been, I believe, 4 more since this report has come out. Just last week, we saw 2 more in the news, so it's very, very prevalent here. So what is intimate partner violence? We have this lovely definition. It is a pattern of intentional behaviors used to establish a system of control over a partner. So there's kind of 3 parts to it. It's a pattern, so it happens multiple times over a period of time. It's intentional, meaning the abuser can turn it on and off depending on who he's with. You know, if he's at a work event or if he's in his home, he can turn those behaviors on and off. And it's a system of control. This can include physical abuse, which most people think about when they hear domestic violence. It can also include emotional abuse, psychological, verbal, sexual, financial is a big one right now. Technology abuse, stalking is usually involved with technology. Manipulation, threats, isolation. We see a lot of threats to immigration status. So what it can look like. So these can be, the physical, the punching, the strangling, the driving recklessly. A lot of people don't think about it, but throwing plates or throwing objects at your partner can be considered physical. The verbal, emotional, psychological, that can be minimizing the abuse. It can be gaslighting their partner. It can be kind of that jealousy, possessiveness of the partner. Financial, a lot of our clients don't have jobs or they have lost jobs due to the abuse. Maybe they have an allowance. Maybe they're not allowed to work at all. Isolation is a really big part here in kind of our rural communities. A lot of victims will have been moved away from their family, away from their friends. Same with transportation. A lot of our victims don't have transportation or they have limited access to the vehicles. Same with like city transport. Here in Seward, we're really lucky that we have a Seward Transit. However, not everybody knows that. We don't have really Ubers or Lyft like kind of the major cities. Technology. So a lot that we're seeing is kind of people hacking their phones, following location, excessively calling or texting their partners, trying to figure out where they're at, who they're with, hiding cameras within the home, within cars, that kind of stuff. For immigration status, we have an office in Crete, so we work with a lot of Spanish-speaking clients who might not have status. So we can help them through that process. A lot of times when we're working with those clients, they don't understand U.S. laws. They don't realize that they can make a report and not necessarily be deported because they're making a report. And then we also have these calm periods and false progress. So these are kind of those temporary ceasefires of, hey, I realize I hurt you. I'm going to get into therapy. I'm going to stop drinking. I'm going to get the help I need. And then there's no follow through. So they make these promises and then there's no. Any questions so far? So why doesn't someone leave? If it's so awful and so bad in the home, why don't they just leave? We hear this a lot. And that's not the right question to be asking. there's a lot of barriers to leaving. There's usually children involved. That's a big barrier, unfortunately. A lack of resources, a lack of finances. Abusers make these really impossible situations for their victims. It's also one of the most dangerous times for a victim. Research has shown that within about 18 months of leaving is the most dangerous time for a victim. That's where about 75% of DV-related homicides happen. So it's a process, not just a one-time event. We've also seen research show that it takes about 7 to 11 times for a victim to fully leave their abuser. And that is because there's a lot of barriers. You know, again, there's that isolation, there's the financial piece, there's the stalking, the threats of harm, either threats of harm to the abuser themselves. Maybe they state that they're going to kill themselves if you leave. Threats to pets, threats to the children, threats to the victim themselves if they leave. Limited job opportunities, especially in these rural communities where there aren't a lot of jobs and maybe the closest job is, 50 miles away. There's also those religious expectations. A lot of our clients are religious, they have religious beliefs, and we try to keep that in mind when we're working with the victim. Shame, fear, those kind of things. So how to respond? This is where you guys come in. So if someone comes to you and discloses, or maybe you notice they're not in the most healthy relationship and you want to talk to them about it. The first step is to kind of recognizing those signs, recognizing, maybe there isn't something quite right going on. Listening, believing, validating, being a safe, supportive person is a big help. So if someone comes to you and you're just like, George would never do that. George, it doesn't seem like he's that kind of person. That's not very helpful to that victim. But instead saying, I'm really sorry to hear that. That's really unfortunate that you're going through this right now. That's a little bit more supportive. And then referring. You can tell them, hey, I know this really cool program that can help you. Or if you have questions, try reaching out to this program. And then respecting the decision of the victim or survivor. That is a really big piece and a really hard piece at times. A lot of victims have lost their social network or their family because they keep going back to their abuser. And it's a hard decision. Again, there's all those barriers in place to keep them there. So just being respectful of their decision. If they go back, just tell them, I am a safe person. If you need me, I'll be there for you. You can also put up your own boundaries to keep yourself from burning out from them. And then how to refer. So we have a 24-hour hotline that's covered by advocates, so you talk to a real person. We also have a text line that is available during working hours. It's pretty nice to use, I should say. You can also meet us in person. So if you call us, like if Chief Peters gets a call, they will sometimes call us in the middle of the night saying, hey, I have someone, can you talk to them, can you shelter them, whatever it may be. We will come meet them face to face. So Hope Crisis Center in general. As our mission states, we are committed to empowering victims of domestic and sexual violence, as well as our communities, through advocacy, education, and confidential emergency services. We have 5 offices. We cover 7 counties. So, like I said before, our Seward office is in the old courthouse, but we also have a Beatrice office, a Fairbury office, a York office, and a Crete office. We provide those free confidential services. That can look like our 24-hour hotline. It can look like emergency shelter if someone needs to be sheltered. It can look like client advocacy. This is where we meet with the client, kind of figure out what their needs are, and we create either safety plans or we help them get in contact with other services like Blue Valley, or there's all types of programs that can help them. Bilingual advocacy, that's where Maribel and Creed comes in hand. She speaks Spanish. She can help those Spanish-speaking clients. If you don't speak Spanish or English, we also use a translation service, so we can still help. Medical advocacy, this can look like getting the person meds. So maybe they left in the middle of the night and couldn't grab their meds. So we can help them reorder them. This can look like going to the hospital with clients. Legal advocacy, while we are not lawyers and cannot give legal advice, we can help with protection orders. We can help with going to court and giving court updates, whether it be for the protection order or if there's a criminal case involved. Again, emergency assistance, that could be housing, getting them into different housing. It could be paying their bills. Maybe the abuser is out of the home, but they need help with like a utility bill, or they need help with rent. We can provide those services. Sexual assault advocacy. So we have a sexual assault advocate on the team. Her name is Carrie. She's been with Hope Crisis Center for 18 years. She works a lot through the colleges throughout our service area. She goes and talks with students. She works with Title IX if something comes up. She's a great person. But we can help with, transportation to the hospital. Here in Seward, the hospital does not do SANE exams or sexual assault exams. So we have to transport people to Bryan and Lincoln. Or we can help without transportation, I should say. We can talk to the client about their rights through a sexual assault exam. If they want to do a partial one, if they want to do an anonymous one, if they don't want to report to the police at all. So we kind of just talk to the clients through that system. Information and referrals. So that could look like referring to, like I said, Blue Valley, referring to legal aid, those kind of things. And then, of course, our prevention and community education. So we do a lot. Last year we did like 164 presentations throughout our 7 counties to schools, businesses, churches. So we try to incorporate that prevention piece. Any questions? Last year we served 613 unduplicated clients. This does not count for the clients that came to us multiple times throughout the year. We answered the phone 4,272 times and provided 1,328 nights of shelter to those fleeing domestic violence. Over the past decade, we've served an average of 561 unduplicated clients a year. So we do a lot. So Seward specific. We are really lucky to have a partnership with the county attorneys here for Seward County. We are the only office that has that partnership. So Shannon's role, my coworker, is the Seward County Victim Assistance. So she doesn't work just with domestic violence and sexual assault, but she does all victims of crime. And her job is kind of to be that middleman between the county attorneys and victims of a crime. So she will attend court, she'll give court updates, she'll set up victim meetings with the county attorneys and the victims, on top of doing everything that I do. So these are kind of the numbers. I just want to point out, these are the numbers for the cases that went through the criminal system. It does not include the walk-ins that never got reported. It doesn't include the ones that were dismissed because there wasn't enough evidence. So some pretty concerning numbers. Last year we had 37 domestic violences, 3 child sexual assault cases, 32 child abuse cases, 10 protection order violations, 18 sexual assaults, 18 disturbing the pieces, 1 motor vehicle homicide, 18 thefts, so a wide range of things. On top of working with clients, we do have a lot of events that we like to put on. So for October, it's Domestic Violence Awareness Month. So we have our cornhole tournament this weekend as a fundraiser. If anyone wants to sign up, it's in Beatrice. We also have our Purple Bin project. So if you saw the Purple Bin as you came in, the General Federations of Women's Club, they are hosting our Purple Bin here at the Civic Center, so we're really lucky to have them. And then we also have one over at the hospital. And that's just to get donations for the clients.
What type of items do you collect, do you need?
The list is on the bucket, but usually it's like paper products, household cleaning stuff. So if someone does move, we try to give them like a little gift basket of cleaning supplies to kind of help with financial stuff. We'll take new or barely used clothing items. So for sheltering clients, we have those items to give them.
Which is a good point, because on the food assistance program, if they qualify for that, it doesn't include any of that. No cleaning products, no paper products, nothing. It's just food assistance, yeah.
Yep. So we try to help with the little bit of a gap in that. So here's some pictures of us doing fun things. So like I said, we do Seward County Gives. We have our silhouettes that we will put out at different colleges throughout like Sexual Assault Awareness or Domestic Violence Awareness Month. We go and chalk at different schools during Sexual Assault Awareness Month. So Concordia is one of our stops, and the high school here in town is one of our stops. Milford is another stop for us. And that's all I got. Any questions? Yeah?
Is there a common thread among the perpetrators?
A common what? Sorry.
Common thread?
Thread?
I could probably address that.
I didn't
Yeah,
know who, I didn't know who to
probably.
ask, but I've got several questions going down that line.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll let Chief talk. I'll talk to Chief then. He's
Any others?
Do all your facilities have a shelter? Or do you have
No.
to take them to different places?
So we have shelter options in all of our counties except for Fillmore and Thayer County. We utilize hotels and motels, and then we have a more permanent shelter, kind of for a longer term stay in our Fairbury place. That one's just a little inconvenient for Seward residents or our Northern County residents. So we try to utilize what's around here.
And those locations are also confidential. We I think they have a couple of safe houses in Lincoln. We don't know where they're at. I mean, we trust them to find a safe spot for them. Just obviously, the fewer people that know their location, given their current situation, the better.
I will say, to go off that, Lincoln is a whole separate program from us. So they are Voices of Hope and Friendship Home. Each county in Nebraska is covered by a program, and there's 22 programs. So we're considered like sister programs.
I'll just run through a couple of things quick, and then we can take some questions. But Cait mentioned that October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. October is always known for what?
breast cancer.
Breast cancer, pink ribbons. We wore pink, I always authorize pink ribbons with our uniforms for the month. But because of my recent involvement with Hope Crisis Center, we now offer purple. I let the officers decide which one they want to go with, because some of the pink is very personal to them, whether it's themselves or family. I want them to be able to still wear the pink if they prefer, but we still want to do what we can to promote domestic violence awareness. It's like there's so many different organizations anymore with their own colors. And when you only have 12 months during the year, a lot of them are overlap 2, 3 per month. I've been in law enforcement, I started 40 years ago. When I started in Columbus, mid-80s, we dealt with domestic violence calls, and almost to the letter. We get a call, yelling and screaming coming from the house, victim calls, whatever. We arrive, we kind of get the gist of what happened, and we tell the perpetrator either go find somewhere else to stay tonight, or other option would be if we have to come back, someone's going to jail. But there's really no teeth in any of that. Not long after is when protection order statute came to be, and prior to protection order, there really wasn't anything that victims could do. There were some things through the court. They were more civil. It wasn't that the law enforcement could take immediate action like we can with protection orders. Someone gets a protection order and there's a violation. Not only do we have the authority to take immediate action, we're bound by the statute to take immediate action. So if there's a violation, someone's going to jail. And now it's up to the court to decide how long they're going to be in jail, but we're at least going to get them out of that situation so that the victim can figure out what they want to do. And those are usually the instances when we will call Cait or Shannon, let them know what's going on, and then let them kind of do their thing. Incredible staff they have there. We're fortunate here in Seward to have them here. There's been turnover in the last 15 years that I've been here. But by far, Shannon and Cait are two of the best that we've ever had the pleasure to work with. And we're a team, right? We work together. There are things that they do when they kind of take over with the victim that we aren't necessarily privy to, nor do we want to be. But it's great to know that we can call them in the middle of the night from the emergency room at the hospital and say this is what's going on, and in a very short time they'll be there, victim. Through the years, law enforcement has spent a lot of time emphasizing domestic violence training. It's now also its own class at the Police Academy in Grand Island. It's become so much, so many lives have been impacted by domestic violence. It used to be, and I hate to say this, but it's almost like, well, yeah, domestic violence happens, but so they yell and scream, and no big deal. But domestic violence comes in a lot of different forms, as Cait alluded to. It isn't always physical. A lot of mental trauma can be inflicted, financial hardships posed against the victim, threats, things of that nature. Again, we can do stuff now. We've got the teeth and the statutes on our side for us to take that action. Also, we have a county attorney's office who is very aggressive when it comes to domestic violence cases. Wendy Elston and her staff take all of these serious. It's not like, he was just drunk, he goes on a bender, but he'll be fine. All these are taken very seriously. Unfortunately, domestic violence really hit home here in Seward last spring. We've always had domestic violence occurring. A lot of times domestic violence victims suffer for a long time before coming forward. And a lot of times, even if they do, they certainly don't want to publicize the fact that they're a victim. But we had a situation that unfortunately led to Seward's first homicide. And I don't know if anybody knows when the last homicide occurred in Seward. Tragically, this young lady with children did everything right. She did everything she was supposed to do. She had the protection order. She was working with the crisis center. We were, but there's no guarantees. And unfortunately, because the case is still ongoing, I can't discuss a lot of the details, but she did everything right and it still went wrong for her. And it's important for us to make sure that we still encourage victims to come forward. That was a worst case scenario. Now, if you remember, that was like the springboard of like 2 or 3 other, within like a 2-week period, there were homicides related to domestic violence over, like I said, a short period of time. I think it was like 2 weeks from in here in Nebraska. So we still want to encourage victims to come forward. If you think you have a relative, you have a friend, you have a coworker that you believe might be a potential victim, please reach out. You can call us. You can call Hope Crisis Center. Again, they do so many things, especially when it comes to the protection order, where they will literally take them by the hand and walk them through the process. The process itself is not complicated. That was one of the points of developing the protection order statute. So you don't need an attorney to get a protection order. It's just filling out a form. But again, having somebody to be with you, to stand by your side while you go up and fill the paperwork out. Well, if there's a court appearance that you have to go to, they'll be there with you. I mean, and develop those relationships so that the victim feels a little bit more at ease, knowing that she's not, she or he. We always kind of make that assumption it's a female. Not always the case, even here in Seward. But to know that they are not walking this journey alone. You know, they've got all these other things. How am I going to pay the bills? What about the kids? What's going to happen? You know, so many things are going through their minds. And a lot of this is perpetrated by the suspect because that's what they've instilled in them. You can't survive without me. So just put up with it and shut up. And oh yeah, sorry I hit you last night when I was drunk. I promise I won't ever do that again. Until the next time I get drunk. So it does occur even here in Seward. So we can't like veil ourselves to the fact that it unfortunately does. Now, fortunately, not to the extent that it happened last spring that resulted in a homicide. But watching Cait and Shannon, go through what they went through personally following that event really struck home with me. So I want to make sure that they're supported any way possible by me. So this, I don't know how long ago it's been, a couple months ago, I offered myself to be considered for a position on the board of directors for Hope Crisis. Again, just to show, I want everybody at Hope Crisis to know that there's at least one cop and one police department that is totally 100% behind their mission. So, anyway, questions?
This kind of give you a multiple scenario of, of what I think and where I'm coming from is we're a reactive society.
Yes, we are very much.
I believe we should get proactive because there is a common thread in 90% of these domestic violence cases.
Yes.
And if we were proactive and we got counseling and treatment into the perpetrators, we wouldn't have victims. And I talked to the state, the senator about changing the laws, and the problem is our laws are too much to the side that they protect me from you know, you stopping me. What my point was is the case here, the case that we had in Seward, that could have been prevented. This was a repeat offense, PTSD, untreated. He should have been kept and isolated and put in mandatory treatment, but the law won't allow it because he's got too many rights.
Yep.
And we need to change the laws, and I don't know how you go about that, because I'd rather pour money into prevention and not have to spend any money on victims.
You and Janet can figure that one out.
Well, the problem is with the legal system, and we need to be able to change the legal system to say, if you're a repeat domestic violator, I don't know why we can't. If you're a repeat domestic violence offender, we can hold you for 180 days. Just pass a law. Just pass a law. Now, there's going to be a lot of opposition to it from you know, every civil rights outfit in the state's going to go down and testify against it. But that's what we need. You know, people need to get the guts to stand up and do something to help out the perpetrators so we can treat these guys. Mental illness is killing our people.
Absolutely.
And we need to do something about it.
And that's across the board.
And if we don't have laws to allow it, we're not going to we're not going to solve it. It's never going to stop.
What I foresee a potential pitfall with that is, I agree with you. I say you commit an act of domestic violence, throw away the key, I don't care. However, we've mentioned a couple of times that domestic violence comes in so many different levels. You know, is it physical? Is it emotional abuse? Is it, you know, where do you draw the line? Okay, yeah. I didn't give her grocery money for the kids this week because I went out with my buddies to drink beer on Friday night after the car races.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and
how I pulled that example out of my head. I did.
My point in getting the mandatory second offense is a mandatory 180 days psych evaluation and psych treatment, because that's probably the problem of 90% of them, is because the victim recants 70% of the time, and that's a problem of prosecuting the abuser is. The victim recants, so if it's mandatory, then she doesn't have to recant, or he doesn't have to recant. We're going to go for 180 days of treatment minimum.
I'm glad you brought that up, because there are times...
Because the protection order didn't do this gal any good.
No, it didn't.
No, and protection order is just a way for you to rearrest them if it's not...
Yep. And you just hope the judge does the right thing.
Yeah.
And there's questions whether the judge could have been a little bit more stern, since he was...
Mm-hmm.
You know, we've had arrested him a couple of times.
Yeah, I mean, this is the problem with repeats, and I guess if that's... You know,
but yeah, that's more of a...
This thing should have never happened. You know?
No, I
mean, he should have had better counseling. He should have had mandatory counseling.
Yeah,
he's a friend of mine. I bowl with him. I didn't have any idea he was.
But there were signs.
He was suffering that much with his PTSD.
There were signs along the way, even with prior relationship.
Yeah, right. His divorce was caused by violence. Yeah.
You had said something. I was going to add on to it. I can't. I apologize.
Hands by the witness.
Oh, yeah. There are the victim. Yeah, a lot of times the victim will, you know, once because believe it or not, the victims feel guilty. Again, and a lot of it's because of the stuff that the perpetrators fed them. Well, I'm this way because of you. If you would have just cleaned up the house, I wouldn't have had to slap you. If you would have, whatever, if you would have had dinner on time, so giving them an opportunity to sit and reflect and think, this was my fault. I don't want to, and again, they're afraid of losing that way of life, but again, who's making the money? Who's providing the insurance? What am I going to do if I don't have that support? And that's where the sooner we can get them into the victim advocates, I think the better the advocates can kind of help display some of that, not necessarily myth, but kind of counter that logic. Because the victims should never feel guilty, ever.
I don't know if you have this information, but are there, I feel like I've heard or read of states where even if the victim recants, they can still prosecute.
And they can here in Nebraska as well.
Okay.
It
So
just
not
makes
a
it really
drop.
difficult. without corroborating evidence.
Gotcha.
You know, the victim may decide, well, I'm not going to testify. But if we've got photos of injuries, medical records indicating injuries, we show the scene of busted up furniture, broken glass, and punches through the walls, things that can kind of, yeah, she doesn't want to come forward in court, but it happened, and we can show that. So yeah, but again, now you're talking about the county attorney's got to feel really confident about moving on something like that. Yep.
It also can depend on how long something has gone on. As a survivor
Yes.
of domestic violence
Yes.
in a first marriage, I can
Yep.
tell you that when my family asked me questions about why I was staying, I said, I know how to do this.
Oh,
I know how to live
you know how to
with
strive.
this. I don't know what it looks like on the other side.
Wow. Very,
So, you know, that.
very
I mean,
impactful. I never really thought of it like that. But
So
I could-
sometimes it has nothing to do with money, because I was highly educated,
yeah.
professional, all that stuff. Sometimes it has nothing to do with surviving without them financially or whatever. It's the whole mental game of being held captive by, this is how I know how to do life.
And the one thing about domestic violence perpetrators is they are excellent at manipulation and playing mind games, because they've done it. Rarely do we have a domestic violence victim where this was first time out of the chute. This has never happened to me before. It's usually, a lot of times it's a progression, something small they didn't even realize was a crime. And it grew and grew and grew and grew. And now maybe they make a call, depending on what happens, but so now they start experiencing the enforcement side of it, and maybe they start getting cold feet. And so there's, I mean, each case is different. It's hard to just lump them all into one situation, but yeah, they get themselves in survival mode and learn how to survive under those circumstances. What am I willing to deal with, and what am I not?
How do you,
And
helping
you-
them move to thriver
Yes.
instead of just survivor.
And it's hard to convince them, whether it's us or whether it's Cait, to convince them that you don't have to live like this. There's other options. It'll be much better for you, your kids, your pets, whatever the case may be. So.
Cait, can you talk a little bit more about, you mentioned like sister organizations in other counties. Say somebody comes to Hope Crisis Center here and they end up moving, to another county. How do you work with those other organizations? Does that person have to essentially start over with the new organization? Do you guys kind of transfer that case out? How does that work?
Yes, I can pull up the list. So we do work with our sister programs quite a bit. So, this is our coalition page. So the coalition is kind of that mother program that looks after all of us. They provide us with statistics. They do a lot of the legislative talks. So Kristen, she is the director. She will get in front of she'll work with senators. She'll go and talk about different bills.
Testifies in front of committees and stuff.
It always takes me a second to find
Hey,
it.
Chief, while she's looking that up.
Yeah.
What is your guys' process? How, do you get notified when a protection order is issued?
Yes.
What are the circumstances of it?
Great question. Yeah.
What's your process?
So when a protection order has